Today is Monday. It is my favorite day of the week. It is the day that sets off the week for me. It is the calmest day of the week. As everybody knows, Friday it gets kind of hectic. Everybody wants their orders done. Everybody has events. Versus Monday being super calm. Even though today is calm, I do have a couple of orders to get out. And most importantly, I'm gonna teach you guys today how to rebuild the choppers for the automatic. The biggest air leaks are coming from those choppers. I think it took me and my dad about anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes to do two of them. And okay, so let me explain that again. When we finished that first one, we had a little bit of problems because we weren't paying attention to the way that it's supposed to be screwed in here. You can put it upside down. If you don't pay attention to these air hoses where they go in, you can put the chopper backwards. And from the first one we did, we learned that we had the attachments on the backside. But thankfully it was just these little screws that are on the bottom. It's just two of them. We turned it around and we put it back together. So overall, the first one took us about 50 minutes to get it done. And once we got to the next two, we did them at the same time. I think we did them in 35, maybe anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes. So it got a lot faster. I have the right tools to get it done. I'm gonna show you where to get them, what to do to get the tools to work, because you do have to adjust them. And I'm gonna teach you step by step on how to take it apart, clean it up, and put it back together. Okay, you guys, so before we start removing the chopper, you need to know that you have to have the right tools. So in order to remove these screws that are up here, you need the 4mm Allen wrench. And there are also two right underneath the chopper. So for that one, we're gonna need the 3/16 Allen wrench. We're also gonna need some ring pliers. And when I was telling you earlier about, adjusting the tool, this is what I meant. So let me focus. All right, so when you get these originally, this body, it's a little thicker from the sides and the edges. So what we did is we took a grinder and we smoothed it down so that it was able to fit in the chopper in order to remove the ring and take the whole thing apart. And I'm gonna show you guys that in a little while, but I'm just showing you the tools that you need right now. So you're gonna need the 7/16 wrench. So in order to get the fittings out from the top and the bottom, you're gonna need this one. And then we're also gonna need a spatula to break open this top right here in order to get into the chopper. And after that, I'm gonna show you guys how to get the seals off and break everything apart so that we can rebuild it and put the new seals and clean up around here so we can put a fresh new rebuilt chopper into the machine. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna remove the fittings from the chopper. And just so you know, they do have Teflon in them because we don't want any air leaks. The reason why we are repairing this one is because of the air leaks. So just make sure that you either put some Teflon in it, or if it has enough of the old one, then just leave it like that. But I always recommend to put more, just so that we don't have any air leaks anywhere. These tops right here tend to get gunged up. So all you have to do is get underneath with the razor blade just to pop it up. And as you can see, it's kind of difficult. All right, so now that we popped it up with the razor blade, I just grab the spatula and crack it open. They've been sitting with glue for a long time, so the glue just builds up and they get a little stiff. But that is like the first step of taking this thing apart. All right, so the next thing we want to do, there's a little Omega ring lock right in here sitting on the screw, so we have to push the cylinder all the way up, and once we erase it all the way up, I'm going to show you what it looks like, and I'm also going to show you how to pull it out. This thing kind of is annoying because you have to go all the way up, and when you put it in, you have to go all the way down again. All right, so that's that little Omega lock or ring. I don't know what it's called. You just want to make sure you don't drop. If you drop it, it's okay. Just try not to drop it. And by the way, these pliers are going to work for this and for the lock that's inside the chopper. So now that we got it out, it does have a lot of grease in it. We are going to clean it up so that when we're ready to put it back in, we're not getting our hands dirty. All right, next step, we got to get these screws out of here. And you have to make sure that you get this Allen wrench all the way in before you screw it out, because you can't strip out your Allen wrench. And I'm showing you guys the way that I learned in order to not damage the chopper, because if you do damage the chopper, you're gonna have to purchase a new one. And Kirk, the guy that's helping me with the machine, the technician, he said they're about $140. So it's up to you if you want to do it the way I'm doing it, step by step, or if you think you can figure out an easier way to do it. It's entirely up to you. I'm just showing you the way that I learned in order to take care of it, not damage it, and get it done the easiest and fastest way possible. Right, so if we go, oh shoot, let me grab the Allen wrench. Yep. So if we go underneath, let me get on the ground. All right. So I'm just gonna show you guys where they're at, and then I'm gonna come up and take it off. So there's the chopper right there. And if you look underneath, just like the top, there's only 2 screws. So one is right there, and the other one is catty cornered, so it'll be this corner. Okay, so I ran into a cool little problem. What happened is, the screw that's on this side, I took it out, and then the one that's catty corner, which is right here, cannot be taken out because this mechanism right here, it's on the way. So what I'm gonna have to do is take this out and unscrew it. And for that, it's the same Allen wrench that we use for the top screws. And then we need the 7/16 wrench to hold the screw from the back. And this should come off pretty easy. So let me do that, and then we'll figure everything else out in a second. All right, so it was as simple as removing that screw so that this whole thing can hang and move over out of the way, so that we can get in there and remove that last screw so that we can continue to remove the chopper. All right, for the next step, I need to get this back screwed on. Okay, so we're just gonna slide this sucker right through there, lock it in, and I'll show you guys why we need to lock this back in, because we're gonna have to unscrew the cylinder from right there, which is basically gonna come off the top, and I'm gonna show you guys how. So after removing the 2 screws from the top and underneath, what we need to do now is we need to bring it back all the way down. So we did that earlier to bring it up. Now we have to bring it back down. So this is the reason why we took that little spring off, is so that this can come out. Otherwise, that little spring won't let those little metal bearings that are in the middle come off. So that's kind of like a security so that this stays on. So we need to take that off, and we need to take this one off. This little top comes off too. So it's time to unscrew this sucker. And in order to unscrew that sucker, we need the 5/8 wrench. And now this right here, this part is critical, you guys, because this cylinder, from that little notch, if you can see it, from that little notch to the bottom, if it gets damaged, you're gonna have to replace the entire thing. So if you grab this wrench and you gently put it right over that little notch that it has, you can turn it just like that, and it'll simply start unscrewing from down here. down here. So that's why we put this part together again, because it basically screws into there. Let me show you. All right, so technically what we're doing is we are unscrewing this cylinder from this part right here. So from turning it up there, it'll unscrew from here, and you'll see in a second that simply by turning it, we already broke it loose. So now we just have to turn it, and the whole thing's gonna come off, and you'll see in a second. Just like that. That's the screw that I was talking about. So that goes into the bottom of this. And now we're gonna rebuild this. So that was all the work that it took to pull it out. I like to go and clean this up, take it apart, and come back and clean this so we have a nice and clean working space. And then we're gonna put it back together, which is basically doing the same steps, just, you know, putting it back together. All right, you guys, so this is where it gets critical. We need to take this apart, and as you guys can see, that little O-ring is right in between this metal piece and the actual body of the chopper. So that is why I was talking to you guys about, you know, grinding these down so that you can get it right in between that brass and the body, so that the points can go down far enough and grip that O-ring so that you can grip it and then gently move the whole cylinder up and down and be able to pull it out. So I'm gonna go ahead and demonstrate that on this table, but I'm just explaining what the purpose of grinding these down was, because otherwise if you get the regular pliers without sanding them down, you won't be able to go far down enough, and you won't be able to pinch the lock. So this does get a little tricky. After you do a couple, it's gonna become a lot easier. So you just have to make sure that you clip down that lock and pinch it. So once you squeeze it in all the way, all you have to do is grab the body, push it down, and that's what I'm talking about right there. So this one can come off. And I'm gonna show you guys where the seals go and how they go in there so that we can replace them. And then we have to come back around. Sometimes you do have to move the ring around because this thing moves around. So all you have to do is push it to the side, find the ring, you know, and repeat the process. All right. Cool. So let me show you guys, that is the whole cylinder taken apart. These are the locks that go on top and bottom. The easiest way to know how they go, it's simply by looking at the lock. So just like when you were pulling it out, the lock is sitting on top. So it goes like this. And this lock faces this way. And it's exactly the same part, so it doesn't matter if you go up and down, down or up. It's exactly the same part. So inside of this mechanism, this lock mechanism, there is a seal O-ring that we're gonna pull out, and it also has this O-ring right here on the side. So this one has two, which means that this one also has two, and this one just has one right here in the middle. We're gonna take all the seals out so that we can clean this up, grease it up, and put it back together so that we have a working, non-air leaking chopper. So if you guys can see this little top part right here that looks like a dip in the middle, whenever you put it back together, if you forget the way it goes, the lock is on this side. So whenever you put it in, you have to make sure that that little dip is facing this way. So you're just gonna bend it, fit it into that little groove, and slide it in there. These are cup seals, so they have a way to lock the air once it's going the opposite direction. So
if you put it in this way, it's just gonna leak a bunch of air because it's not gonna lock it in. It does have like a slight angle on it. So when the air is forced in one direction, it seals it up, and you just have to make sure that it goes in like this every single time for both sides. So the lock is here, that little dip is on this side, and then you just simply put it in there. So we're gonna go ahead and grab, this one's still fairly kind of new. This might have been rebuilt in the past. I have taken some out that just crumble into pieces. This one right here is being a little difficult, but we'll get it out in a second. You can use a tiny screwdriver. I don't have one to remove the seals. It's gonna make your life a lot easier. I just don't have one, and I'm being extra careful. So this one feels pretty good too, actually, but it's not as round anymore. It flattens out over time, so the seal starts to rub away because they go up and down so damn much, and over time they just, they give up. So we're gonna clean this up. I'm gonna repeat the same process with the other one. I'm gonna bring in the seals, and I'm gonna show you how to put them back in there without damaging anything, and then we're gonna put everything together so that we can install that chopper into that clean working space area. Okay, so check this out. As I was taking out the seals out of the other one, remember how I said that the other one was in good working condition? This one just crumbled into pieces. Alright, so once I grab the first lock mechanism that we're working with, alright, and I cleaned it up with 480, that screen opener. What I like to do is I like to grab a rag and a flathead screwdriver, and if you put it right in between the middle of it, you can just work your way around that center groove where that seal cup goes, and you can get all that excess dirt or grease that builds up over time inside of it. It's just so that it has a tighter fitting and it's not moving around too much inside. It's just better when everything is clean. I do the same thing for the outside. I just go sideways, so I do it with the side of the screwdriver so that it cleans all the walls, all the space inside of it. This middle part, the cylinder that goes up and down, I shined it up really nicely. This is not damaged in any way, so you got to make sure you take care of this, because if there's any nicks or if you drop it or anything of that nature where you damage it with the wrench where you're taking it out, your air is going to leak right out of it and you're going to have to buy a new one. So you got to take care of this. Same thing with the casing. I went inside and I cleaned it with a rag very carefully. If any nicks are on this inside part of it, the air is also going to leak. I went and I cleaned inside where our elbows, our fittings are going to go, and we're ready to start putting the new. We're ready to start putting in the new gaskets into all our components. We're gonna grease them up, and we're gonna start putting everything back together, make it look nice and shiny. And remember, that the cup seal, you grab your lock, flip it upside down, and your cup seal has to be having that little groove. So you just drop it in there. It's a little difficult to put it in there, but you just gotta work it. Okay. Just make sure you don't damage it. There it is. Now, just because it's in there, don't think that it's sitting in right. So before we install it, I'm gonna show you what I do to ensure that it's sitting in there all the way. And once you put it all together, you don't have any air leaks. So let's go ahead and put the other one together. We just have to slap this middle one in here. And then we're gonna grease everything up so that we can start assembling. This is another thing right here, you guys. This is very fine lubricant. So I went ahead and used this package that I had to lubricate the seals and the chopper. So if you guys don't have a very fine grease, go ahead and get you guys one of these. It works fine. It's not gonna, you know, damage any of your parts, or they're not gonna last any time longer, or you know, break down sooner. So all I do is I grab a little bit and I rub it around the seal. I do that for all the seals, and then I come back around and I'm gonna show you guys how to secure that inside cup seal once everything is greased up. Okay, so I just finished greasing everything up. I greased up the shaft and the inside of the casing. So this, we know that it's gonna go in like that because the lock is on the top. But in order to secure that cup seal, what we're gonna do is we're gonna put it in through this side first and make sure we play with it. We move it around, and that is gonna make sure that that cup seal is gonna sit nicely inside. So now that we went in a couple of times through the wrong side, now we're just gonna come back and do it this way. Whenever you do this side, okay, now check this out. There's that little divot right there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put it in, and when we wiggle it in, we're gonna wiggle it in up against this side and this side, because this is very sharp and it can cut your seal. So what you wanna do is you wiggle it in this direction. All right, once you feel that it sits on that little divot or rivet, whatever, I don't know what it's called, you simply turn it and it's gonna slide in and it's gonna be nice and smooth. So just remember, when you're putting this lock in, don't wiggle it up against this edge right here because it is sharp. So you wanna wiggle it like this. You're gonna feel that it sits right here. Once you feel it sit, you're just gonna turn it, pushing it down slowly, and then eventually it's just gonna slide in. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and put this one inside of our casing. And the way you put it in there, you know, you have to be really careful. Make sure you don't damage any of the parts. You don't want to scratch anything. So we're gonna carefully push it in, just like that. Okay, boom. Now we run into our lock problem. If you're having issues with that lock, what you can do, if you can see it right there, what you can do is just grab your pliers, and now that you cleaned everything, it should be pretty easy to move it around. So as you can see, you can move it around and then find the easiest spot so that you can go in there, pinch it, and then push the whole thing. So you see that back part right there? See that back part right there? It needs to be pinched all the way in. You see it go away? And then you simply push it in. Well, for this, you're gonna need some leverage. So we're gonna do it down here. All right, so the lock is in there, and you'll be able to tell that it's inside of that groove because it goes past the point where you can see the top edge of the lock. So that one is tightly and nicely secured. So now we're gonna flip it around and go ahead and put the other side in there. And it's the same process where you have to wiggle it in very carefully and not damage the seal. What we can do is we can slide this in there and put the bottom screws in first, and then we'll figure that we need to turn this to screw it in, and it should be in place. All right, so we got to deal with this ring now. We're gonna put it in there, put the top back on there, get the fittings on the side, and that should give us a rebuilt chopper, you guys. How cool was that? All right, my friends, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. That is a cylinder chopper rebuilt. I hope you guys learned something. I'm gonna see if I can clean that X off so everything looks nice and clean. It should be air free. A lot of times people think that the chopper has an air leak, but it's really one of these fittings. So make sure that you know exactly what's going on before you repair the entire thing. And that's it for today. That's an awesome. I was excited to shoot this. It took me a long time, but I enjoyed it. So I hope you guys do too. Thanks.